I never imagined that one night, everything I thought I knew about my life would shatter in an instant. My wife, the woman I had built my world around, was living a double life, a life that would soon unravel before my eyes, leaving me in the ruins of heartbreak and betrayal. But there was something I hadn't counted on: the strength I would find in the aftermath, and the shocking revelation that this painful chapter would lead me to the path of justice, healing, and rediscovery of who I really was. It all started innocently enough. Kathy, my wife, and I had built what appeared to be the perfect life. We had everything: a beautiful house, careers that seemed to be on the rise, and a circle of friends who envied our seemingly perfect relationship. But behind the smiling pictures on social media, behind the dinners at fancy restaurants and weekend getaways, a storm was brewing. It wasn't just one small slip-up. It was months of nagging doubts and a growing sense of unease. Something felt off. Kathy had become distant, her late nights more frequent, her social media presence increasingly private. At first, I dismissed it as stress from work, maybe even the strain of the holidays. But as time passed, my suspicions grew, and so did the pit in my stomach. I knew deep down that something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. So, I began to watch, to observe the subtle changes in her behavior. It wasn't long before I stumbled upon something I couldn't ignore, something that would turn my life upside down. One night, while she was getting ready for yet another girls' night out, I noticed a text message on her phone. It was a brief message from someone named Mark. The text read, "I can't wait to see you tonight, babe." It's been too long. My heart sank. That was the moment I realized my wife wasn't just going out with friends. She was seeing someone else. At that moment, I was torn between confronting her immediately and gathering more evidence. I wasn't ready to face the possibility of infidelity, but I needed the truth. The truth was the only thing that could set me free. So I took a deep breath and decided I would gather the evidence before making any decisions. I turned to my best friend, Tina. She had always been my rock, the one person I could turn to for advice, no matter how difficult the situation. If there was anyone who could help me navigate this chaos, it was her. I called Tina the next day, and I explained everything: the late-night dinners, the private social media accounts, the gut-wrenching suspicion that had been gnawing at me for weeks. Tina was shocked, but not surprised. She knew Kathy well and had seen the subtle changes in her over the past few months. She listened carefully, absorbing every detail. Then, after a long pause, she said, "We need evidence, Jerry. Hard, undeniable evidence." Her words were exactly what I needed to hear. With Tina's unwavering support, we began to plan. I felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in weeks. We weren't just going to sit back and let Kathy's lies tear me apart. We were going to take action. The decision was made. We would hire a private investigator to track Kathy's movements. We needed someone to follow her, document her actions, and provide us with the evidence we so desperately needed. It felt wrong, like I was betraying my own wife, but the need for the truth far outweighed my guilt. Days turned into nights as we worked together, poring over the investigators' reports. Pictures, dates, and documents started to pile up. Each new discovery was a punch to my gut, but it was also a step closer to exposing the truth. I didn't care about the pain anymore. This wasn't just about my broken heart, it was about justice. Then came the moment we had been waiting for. The investigator sent over a batch of pictures that left no room for doubt. There they were, Kathy and Mark laughing together at a coffee shop, walking hand in hand through the park, and dining at a trendy restaurant. But the photo that hit me hardest was the one taken at the county fair. It was the same fair Kathy had claimed to be attending with her girlfriends. The betrayal was staring me in the face, undeniable and raw. Tina and I sat together, looking over the latest batch of pictures. I felt a cold rush of anger and heartbreak, but Tina's voice cut through the storm of emotions. "We have enough evidence, Jerry. It's time we confront them." It was time. Time to end the nightmare. Time to expose the people who had torn my life apart. But it wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about closure, about making sure they paid for their lies. We had a plan. The dinner was going to be the perfect setup for our confrontation. I would invite Kathy and Mark to discuss a potential business collaboration between Mark's company and the one I worked for. It was risky, dangerous even, but it would give us the perfect opportunity to expose them without warning. The night of the dinner, I was a bundle of nerves. I walked into the upscale restaurant, my heart pounding in my chest. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I knew this was the moment everything would change. Kathy and Mark were already seated when I arrived. I joined them, forcing a smile to hide the chaos inside me. The evening passed slowly, each second dragging as I watched them interact. Their chemistry was undeniable. They had no idea what was coming. Finally, as the dessert was being served, I knew it was time. "There's a reason I invited you both here tonight," I said, my voice steady, though my heart was racing. "And it's not business." Kathy looked confused, while Mark raised an eyebrow, intrigued but clearly unaware of what was coming. I took a deep breath and pushed an envelope across the table. It was filled with undeniable proof, pictures of Kathy and Mark's secret rendezvous, each one capturing their betrayal. "I believe this belongs to you," I said, locking eyes with Kathy. Her face drained of color as she saw the evidence laid bare before her. Mark stiffened beside her, his confident smile faltering. The truth had been exposed, and they could no longer hide behind their lies. The silence that followed was deafening. Kathy's eyes were filled with guilt and shock, but there was something else there too, regret. Mark, on the other hand, remained silent, his once charming demeanor crumbling under the weight of his own deception. "I loved you, Kathy. I deserved better than this," I said, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. The confrontation was every bit as painful as I had imagined. The woman I had trusted, the man who had been my wife's lover, was now standing before me, exposed and vulnerable. My heart ached, but there was a strange sense of release in the air. The lies had been shattered, and the truth was finally out. The aftermath of the confrontation was messy, to say the least. The days that followed were a blur of phone calls with lawyers, divorce papers, and endless explanations. I couldn't deny how painful it all was, but there was a part of me that was finally able to breathe again. I couldn't allow Kathy's betrayal to control my life any longer. Tina was my constant support during this time. Her friendship was the one thing that kept me grounded. We had long talks, reminiscing about old times and finding comfort in the mundane, in the moments that had nothing to do with Kathy or the affair. Slowly, I began to rebuild my life. One afternoon, I received a call from Mark's wife, Samantha. The news of her husband's affair had reached her too, and she was devastated. However, she thanked me for uncovering the truth. It was a strange moment of solidarity in a world that felt like it had been turned upside down. As the weeks passed, I slowly began to piece my life back together. I focused on my work, my friends, and most importantly, my own healing. I redecorated my home, getting rid of anything that reminded me of Kathy. It was a small step, but it was a step toward reclaiming my life. Kathy moved out after the confrontation. I had already filed for divorce, and we were just waiting for her to be served in court. When the day came, Kathy didn't even bother to show up. She received nothing from the house and no alimony. She left with nothing, her life unraveling just as my own had. As for Mark, his wife cleaned him out. She took everything: a house, cars, alimony, child support. He didn't lose his job, but he did receive a reprimand, a small price to pay for the devastation he had caused. In the end, Kathy never tried to contact me again. As far as I was concerned, she was dead to me. That painful chapter of my life had come to a close. I had learned that betrayal doesn't have to define who you are. It can break you, but it can also make you stronger. And so I moved forward, wiser, stronger, and with a newfound sense of peace. Life had a way of testing you, but it also had a way of showing you who you truly are when you least expect it. The end of one chapter marked the beginning of another. There were moments when I thought I would never recover from the betrayal, but time has a way of healing even the deepest wounds. And now, looking back, I realize that sometimes the things that hurt us the most also teach us the most important lessons in life. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I feel ready to face it, head on.